Hey friends! Can you believe this is already our 4th week of the spring semester for art class for 3rd through 5th grade? I'm really looking forward to doing this lesson with you guys. I know it's one that a lot of people have requested, and I'm just really stoked to see what you guys come up with. This week we are talking about graffiti art. Now, graffiti is any time artwork is drawn on a wall. Now, long before the United States was a thing, people have been making graffiti for years. Pretty much ever since people could start making art, people have been making graffiti. And sometimes, nowadays, people do graffiti on things that don't belong to them. Now, do you think that it's cool to just go and just draw all over something that doesn't belong to you? Probably not. Like, if you're in class and you have a friend who has a really cool notebook and then you just decide, I don't like the way it looks, and you just draw all over it, do you think they'd be cool with that? Nah, that's pretty messed up, right? So, first thing I want to talk to you guys about is we're going to be talking about this really cool style of art, but when you guys are using this art style, I want you to make sure to be respectful and only draw on things that belong to you. Because if you go and draw on something that doesn't belong to you, that's probably going to stress somebody out a lot because they're going to have to clean it and worry about taking care of it and making it look the way they want to, all right? So that's my first rule when we're doing this style, is when you are using it, you need to make sure that you are only drawing and painting on things that belong to you. All right, because we need to be respectful of the people around us. Now let's get to it. The style of graffiti that you guys know and love is probably the American style, which started in the 1970s. Really started in the 1960s, but the style we know of now became really popular in the 70s. And it's a kid's art form. Did you guys know that? The people who started making this style of graffiti were kids. It was very rare for an adult to do this type of artwork for a long time. Nowadays, most of those kids are grown up, so yes, there are some adults making it too. But for a long time, and this is the first time in art history that we know of, that an entire style of art was made by kids. And I thought that was really cool. So what we're going to be doing, you guys, is we're going to be taking all of the art skills that we've learned so far: line, shape, texture, pattern, value, and there's another one I'm missing. We worked on form a little bit last week, but we won't be doing that too much yet. Space, that's the one I forgot. And we're going to be using all of these art elements together to create some really cool graffiti. And you guys are going to come up with your own style, believe it or not. Now, I want you guys to think all the way back to the very beginning of the year. It's been a long time. In August, we did those illuminated letters where we started with just drawing the letter, right? That's what we called the skeleton letters. And then we outlined it with a line to go around it. And that was how we created our bubble letters for our illuminated letters. We're going to be doing that, but with a whole word. Now, you can use your name, or you can just use another word, as long as it's appropriate. Once we've turned those letters and words into shapes instead of lines, we will start changing those shapes and making them a little more interesting than just regular bubble letters. We can do that by adding little curves and points and arrows. I'll show you what I mean. I know a lot of you guys may be familiar with graffiti because of the movie Into the Spider-Verse, which is super cool as an artist. But let's look at some other graffiti art just to get some inspiration before we start.
That's better. See what you got now? Make mistakes harder. Real mind. How you cut that line with another color?
Little help?
That's good. Because if you do, that's cool. But if you don't, you gotta keep it moving.
That's intentional.
Wow.
Is it too crazy?
No, man.
Now, I'm just going to start by practicing writing my alphabet in my handwriting. Those are going to be my skeleton letters. You don't have to do this. This is just me practicing. If you want to practice, you can, or you can just watch. Now, I'm outlining those skeleton letters with other lines so that I can start making them into shapes instead of just lines. You can make these outlines curvy or straight depending on what you want to do. Now that I've outlined all of my letters and made them into bubble letters, I can go back and erase the lines in the middle or those skeleton letters. All right, so at this point, I can start taking the shapes of my letters and making them more interesting. I want to give them bumps and texture and random little things coming off of them. Think about what you would add to your letters. All right, now that I added some interesting lines to make my letter shapes, I'm going to start adding shadows and coloring my letters. This will make them start popping out and looking 3D like a lot of graffiti art does. When I start coloring my letters, no matter what color I use, I want to make the very top of my letter look shiny. So I'm going to leave one little light spot on top of them so that they really look extra 3D with those highlights and shadows. See how I left a little light spot? You guys don't have to do the entire alphabet. What I want you to do is think about doing your own name. So in the past, when I did the first letter of my name, a bunch of you guys did the same thing. And so instead of doing the same thing as me, I want you to be brave and practice doing your name, not mine, all right? So let's do this. All right, just like with my alphabet, I'm starting with my pencil. And I'm just going to, with my handwriting, write my name. Mrs. Graham. Now the cool thing about graffiti is a lot of the time the letters kind of stick together and become the same shape. So now that I've done my skeleton letters, I'm ready to outline them with another tool. Now you guys, I would suggest using your pencil for this part, but I'm going to use my marker so that you guys can see what I'm doing. So in order to outline, how can I make these shapes more interesting? Can I add little bumps? Can I add little random curves? I'm going to add, I think, an arrow to my K. Make Making those letters into shapes. Alright, now that I've made my letters into some cool shapes, I'm going to erase my pencil lines. At this point, you guys can go over your marker or your pencil with marker if you have one, or pen, that works too. Now that I've erased my pencil lines, my A kind of got lost. So I think I'm going to go in and try to fix it. So I'm going to add a little extra line there. Maybe add some extra lines with my M so that doesn't get lost. There we go. That's a little better. Now I can still see my name. Now I'm going to start by adding some shadows. So let's pretend the light's coming from this side. The shadows are going to be on the other side, right? So I'm going to go in, start adding those shadows just like we've done in the past with our other shapes. Same thing, just pretend the letters are a three-dimensional object. You guys have practiced this. I know you can do it. Alright, now that I've added my shadows, I can start thinking about coloring. Now remember, if the shadow's on one side, the highlight's going to be on the other side. So either leave the other side white or really light so it looks shiny. I can go in and mark it out with my white crayon if I need to. You guys can do that if you want. You don't have to. That way I just remember to keep that side light so it looks shiny. I'm going to start when I color by pressing extra hard by my shadows, just like we did before with that value. And then when I go in to add my other color, I'll be pressing lighter. I'm pressing extra hard by those shadows so we get that nice value. Then our letters will really pop out too. Remember, just like when we were drawing our eyes a while back, you can use whatever combination of colors you want. Just press really hard by the shadows, and then the further you get across the shape, you're going to press lighter and start adding those lighter colors. You guys have already practiced this, believe it or not. And if you don't remember doing that lesson, you can always go back and watch it if you go back in our videos. That was when we did those big eyeballs. Those were pretty cool. Now, once you guys finish coloring your name, I want you to think, all right, if I were to paint this on a wall that was my own, right, what would it look like? Did I maybe splatter some other paint on it first? Were there maybe some bricks on it? All right, I think I'll add some bricks. Do you guys remember the trick we used for bricks when we did our castles the other day? We started with our horizontal or sideways lines. And then, instead of drawing our other lines just up and down, we staggered them, right? So I'll start one row by just drawing some vertical or up and down lines. And then instead of doing the next ones right above them, we'll go in the middle. Alright, and I think I'll do some little paint splatters on my wall. If you want to get really complicated, just like before, you guys can even add shadows to your bricks. I think I'm going to do that. Just color it a little darker on one side, just like we did with our letters. Here's today's objectives. Number 1, I can transform my name into graffiti letters by outlining my handwriting and adding at least 3 extra shapes. Number 2, I can make my letters appear to be 3D by adding shadows and creating value going from light to dark. En español, número 1. Yo puedo transformar mi nombre en letras de graffiti al delinear mi letra y agregar al menos 3 formas adicionales. Número 2. Yo puedo hacer que mis letras aparezcan en 3D agregando sombras y creando valor pasando de oscuro a claro. All right, friends, don't forget to turn these in to Seesaw when you are finished, and I can't wait to see what you do. I'll see you in art class.